Good evening and welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again. After a week-long hiatus, we're back and better than ever. As usual, this is your host, John Harrison. And also, as usual, I'm joined by my co-host, Chandler McKinney. How's it going today, Chan?
Doing well, John. Thanks for having me, and I'm glad to be back.
Oh, we're both glad to be back.
Yes, sir.
Last week, not a lot of stuff happening, and then towards the end of the week, maybe that was Thursday or Friday, we got the gift of Kyrie Irving. He came down from the heavens. So we'll just jump right in and we'll get going with that.
Yeah, let's get started.
So I'm sure everyone knows Kyrie's trying to push his way out of Cleveland. And I really think, it begs the question, will he be a Cavalier this season, Chan?
After the latest trade talks, I'd say no. He said he wants out of Cleveland, unfollowed LeBron on Twitter.
I saw that. And Instagram.
Yeah, that's in today's world, that's big news. So most likely will not be a Cavalier next season. But what are some of the teams that he could go to, John?
His preferred destinations are the Knicks, Spurs, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Miami Heat. But the funny thing is that he doesn't have a no trade clause, so they can ship him out to anywhere the Cavaliers desire, or they're going to get a big return from him. So where do you think he's going to end up?
I definitely think he'll end up on a West Coast team. The Cavs aren't stupid here, and they'll definitely trade him to someone that they won't compete against too much. If he goes to the Knicks or the Heat, they're going to see him more. Eastern Conference teams, Porzingis, Melo, Kyrie, that's a pretty formidable team. Also on the Heat, Pat Riley kind of can maybe build around Kyrie. But Minnesota or the Spurs, maybe put up a fight against Golden State, and that'd be something to watch.
So give me a team. What do you think he's going to be?
The Suns are actually looking like an interesting team, kind of coming out of nowhere here. We didn't really mention them in the four, but they definitely seem like a team that has some young assets and Eric Bledsoe that they could ship over, and the Cavs could get a pretty good point guard in return.
So you think he's going to end up in Phoenix?
Yeah, I'll throw the Phoenix Suns down as a team he could possibly end up on.
See, I could see him going to Phoenix, but I think a dark horse team to consider might be the Los Angeles Clippers. You just lose Chris Paul to trade. You can make another splashy trade for another point guard. You got some new assets in Sam Decker, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly. You could throw in a first round pick or something, and you might see Kyrie heading to Los Angeles. But if I had to put money on it, I bet he probably ends up with the Knicks. I think because the Cavs probably really want Melo. You can probably work in a third team like the Suns, and maybe not see Kyrie go to Phoenix, but see an Eric Bledsoe. And maybe another young player, not named Devin Booker or Josh Jackson, as we found out today. You might see an Eric Bledsoe plus another person come back to the Cavs, and then they're able to ship out some bench players and clear up a little cap space and, make a little more cap room and bring them down out of the luxury tax a little bit.
But the true story behind all this is that Kyrie really does not want to be the Robin to Batman LeBron anymore. He has been sitting behind LeBron for 3 or 4 years now. As LeBron was on the team, left, they got Kyrie, he was the star. LeBron comes back, and it's almost like the big brother scenario where he wants his own face, he wants his own team, he wants his own path now, doesn't want to be the secondary guy to LeBron anymore.
Yeah, but I heard some interesting stats today in that he takes more shots and he has the ball more in his hands than LeBron does. So, he's not really playing second fiddle. He's using the ball. He has the ball in his hands more, if not just as much as LeBron. So I don't, he must be tired of going to the NBA Finals every year.
Yeah, no, I think this is a selfish move by Kyrie. You go to the finals for 3 straight years with Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You win a championship. Kyrie's on a constantly good team. And it's just a first world problem here where he just wants more. He wants more out of this team, and he's not going to get it. So he wants his own face to a team and maybe to beat LeBron. But I think this is a selfish move by Kyrie.
So I guess it begs the question: if you get, say, you get Eric Bledsoe and Melo out of a deal for Kyrie, do you still make it to the NBA Finals? I think you still make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, you'll still make it to the Eastern Conference Finals with that team.
Do you make it to the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I think you do. I don't think the other good team is really the Celtics, and I don't think they could beat a Eric Bledsoe, Iman Shumpert, Melo, LeBron, Tristan Thompson with Eric. Like, that's just too good of a team to beat. But does it beat Golden State? We always beg the question. Probably not.
Now you bring up the Celtics. Well, I guess I brought up the Celtics. But it begs the question: if the Celtics say we'll give you the Brooklyn pick and a starting player, do you ship Kyrie to your Eastern Conference rival?
to your rival
for that Brooklyn pick that could very well be the number one pick in
the Cavs are definitely looking for youth. After they got rid of Andrew Wiggins, they've only had older players LeBron has brought to the team, like Chris Anderson, James Jones, Shumpert, J.R. Smith. So definitely looking for some youth on the team, and a young pick, Brooklyn, which is probably going to be number one, or at least I'd say top 5, could be a good possibility for the Cavs to consider.
So
new GM too, so he can be making some big splashes.
So what if we hear in the next week the always passive Danny Ainge says, "I'll give you the Brooklyn pick and Jason Tatum." Or Jaylen Brown.
Well, with the moves Danny Ainge has made, which is non-existent, I don't think he'll do anything here.
But if you're Cleveland, do you ship Kyrie to Boston for the
How funny would that be if Kyrie gets to the Celtics and they end up beating the Cavs? Like, how sweet would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll happen either, but I think that I saw that Boston is, they're interested.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be interested unless you're the Golden State Warriors. But I mean, if you just look at the teams that Kyrie wants to go to, the Knicks are probably somewhat reasonable, as far as being able to get there. But why would you want to go to the Knicks?
Yeah.
Like, Carmelo Anthony's trying to get out of there for some reason.
Yeah, people are trying to leave. It's just not a good scenario to go there.
And if you look at the Spurs, he's going to be playing second fiddle to Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be...
And Greg Popovich, like, if LeBron is this hard on him to, like, be the best, imagine Greg Popovich during practices. Like, he might not survive there if he can't survive Cleveland.
And so Minnesota just traded for Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. They have Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins.
That could be a good young little team.
But that's, Karl Anthony Towns is supposedly, he's going to be future MVP. Jimmy Butler is now the face of the franchise. And Andrew Wiggins, can still be pretty good.
Yeah. So where does he fit in there is next question.
And then you look at the Miami Heat. You have Hassan Whiteside and Justice Winslow. Granted, Kyrie probably could be the face of that franchise. But, Pat Riley has a pretty strict system, and if you don't fit into it the right way, you're out of town. So, I mean, we have to wait. Now, how funny would it be if he ends up the Cavaliers work out a deal to ship him to Minnesota, and Andrew Wiggins comes back?
Ooh.
Who LeBron James wanted no part of 3 years ago.
Yeah,
he wanted no part of Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, right away he wanted that Kevin Love for Andrew Wiggins trade, and he got it. And LeBron does what he does and always gets a trade he wants. But that would be interesting to see if Andrew comes back and just kind of has to face LeBron and say, like, why did you get me out of town?
Yeah.
Like, what did I prove to you?
Ironically, if they would have kept Andrew Wiggins and not traded for Kevin Love, they have a better lineup to beat the Warriors.
And, more youth, better shooting, lankier players. Like, it would have made sense, but they made the deal, and now they have to live with the consequences.
He wanted no part of Andrew Wiggins. No. Absolutely no part of him. Yeah. But I also saw on Bleacher Report yesterday.
Sources say
the potential deals for Kyrie. And I stumbled across this one, trading him to the Charlotte Hornets, who did not make the playoffs last year, for Kemba Walker and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist.
Yeah, Mr. Clutch and Kemba would be a valuable asset.
So I think if you You slot Kemba into the starting point guard role next to LeBron. I think he still scores like 25 points a game. He was scoring like 23 last year. I think he can, match Kyrie's 25. He looks to pass a little bit more than Kyrie does. He can probably, average, 7 or 8 assists a game. Pick and roll with LeBron James and Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson and, kicking it out to Kyle Korver and, Channing Frye and J.R. Smith. And then Michael Kidd-Gilchrist can guard any position 1 through 4. He's like 6'7". Yeah. Granted, he has the weirdest looking jump shot in the whole league.
Can't shoot that well.
But, he can guard Steph Curry.
Yep.
He can guard Klay Thompson.
Yep.
He can guard Kevin Durant. And he can guard Draymond Green. He can probably guard whatever center they're throwing out there because the center is he's just out there to, take up space.
Yeah, and we don't really know much about Kemba or Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. They're on a Charlotte Hornets team, doesn't make the playoffs regularly, and they kind of get lost in the mix of the NBA. But maybe get these two guys on a starting team that consistently makes the playoffs, and they could make some noise too.
But when I look at that return that would come from Kyrie, you send Kyrie to Charlotte for a team that was like 9th or 10th in the East last year. So you take their best offensive player and their best defensive player, so they're probably not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Kyrie's the face of the franchise.
He gets what he wants.
And if you're Michael Jordan, you have Kyrie Irving, and you just drafted Malik Monk. You still have Frank Kaminsky, one of the Zeller brothers, I think. And you got Dwight Howard. Actually, you don't have the Zeller brother anymore because he was shipped out of town for Dwight Howard.
And they have Nicholas Batum still there, I think.
So, you have some building blocks for the future. You probably have, 2 or 3 years down the road, and you might have a pretty good team.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Cavaliers and I look at that, I'm shipping out Kyrie to a team who's probably not going to make the playoffs, so you don't really have to worry about, like a Celtics or, if the Knicks...
Washington or something.
Yeah, or if the Knicks were to, with Porzingis and Kyrie, or if they were to suddenly, be magical and make something work. But, he would be the number 1 star in Charlotte, and you're getting back a player who can, fill Kyrie's offensive shoes, will pass the ball more, will probably play more defense. He'd probably listen to LeBron more, say, hey, you didn't win in Charlotte. You're coming to my team now. Let's play some defense. Let's score the ball. And then you have a player who can guard, the top 4 best players on Golden State. And then you still have Kevin Love.
Yeah.
And you still obviously have LeBron and Tristan Thompson. And maybe you get rid of Iman Shumpert because I don't know why they put him on the floor. He's so bad. And you still have J.R. Smith.
Yep.
And I think that puts you in a pretty good position to, obviously make the finals again.
And everyone gets what they want. Kyrie gets what he wants. The Cavs get what they want on a trade return. So that could make sense too.
I think
we'll have to wait and see.
Kemba plus Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is greater than Kyrie. I think if they can somehow make that trade work, they are a much better team. They are much more ready to face the Warriors than they are now with Kyrie.
Yeah, they upgrade, or I guess downgrade a little bit on offense, but upgrade a lot on defense, which they need, and get more youth.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. And the other trade that I thought maybe would be pretty good would be for Bledsoe and Josh Jackson, but we just saw a little bit ago that the Suns aren't going to include Josh Jackson in any deal.
They're trying to keep youth on that team too. Devin Booker, Eric Bledsoe, Josh Jackson. That's a pretty good young core to build around. They're not looking to give that up just yet.
Yeah, so I think we both agree that he's on his way out of Cleveland.
It sounds from the reports and in our reports that we're getting in here that he's probably out of town. In Cleveland, just depends when, who he's going to, who they're getting in return. But that doesn't have no trade clause is a big deal. So Cavs can send him anywhere.
Yeah.
Can send him to the last place team they can send him to the Sixers if they want. If they feel like they get a good enough in return, and he can get lost in Philadelphia somewhere. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But the Cavs did make another free agent move here, signing Derrick Rose, who we pushed the panic button on a couple episodes ago. So does he have a resurgence in Cleveland and come back to the player that we know, the MVP that we all know and love?
So he did sign a 1-year, $2.1 million deal. He took
league minimum,
or veteran minimum.
Yeah.
Because he's in the league a certain amount of years. I don't think you'll ever see him get back to that MVP status that he was in 2011. But I think he's put in a pretty good situation. The problem in Chicago and even in New York was they didn't have anybody who could shoot. They had all these players that could get to the rim, and Jimmy Butler started to be able to shoot a little bit towards Derrick Rose's end in Chicago. But now he can run. If Kyrie's not there, and if they don't get a pretty decent point guard in return, he's the starting point guard. So you put him with LeBron James, and I think you have two pretty good players who can get to the rim at a bunch of times a game, and they can get to the rim, they can finish, or they can get to the rim and they can kick it out to Kevin Love or J.R. Smith or Kyle Korver or Channing Frye, all these players that Derrick Rose didn't have any shooters before, and now he has
a plethora of shooters.
He has all these players, and I cringe every time LeBron James takes a three, but I mean he shot threes at his highest clip last year. So I mean even he can shoot a three every now and then.
Yeah, but if Derrick Rose can stay on the floor is the biggest question. I believe last year he only played 68 games. So,
yep. I
mean, I know that's 82-game season, like it's comparable, but he needs to stay on the floor more.
I think if they are able to trade Kyrie and get like an Eric Bledsoe or a Kemba Walker or another, pretty good point guard, I think Derrick Rose would fit in perfectly as like the sixth man
bench
to lead. To lead that second unit off the bench that takes a little bit, it takes a little bit off LeBron's shoulders during the regular season, and I think that's where you might really see him thrive.
Yeah, and he's
season.
a big name still. Like you see Derrick Rose, the name, you think of him in college, you think of his early years. Like if he can do anything like that, he just gives those second line players some confidence, and maybe they start playing better too.
I mean, this is the make or break year for him. If he can't perform or stay healthy with this Cavs team that is pretty much no matter what going to make the Eastern Conference Finals, then I mean you're probably you see the end of his career. But I mean, if he could really turn his career around, he could average 15 points a game off the bench and play a full season, and you might see that $2.1 million turned into maybe $12 or $15 million somewhere else next year.
Or a longer contract for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see it. I think his success will kind of hinge on, where Kyrie goes. If he's going to be the starting point guard, or if Kyrie somehow stays and they figure it out. Maybe they bring J.R. Smith off the bench and you have a Derrick Rose, Kyrie Irving backcourt.
Yeah. And he doesn't need to have starting minutes either. Like, he can play a limited role on the bench, and maybe that saves some of the wear and tear from him, and maybe he lasts the whole season. But
yeah, from one point guard to another, earlier or late last week, or maybe it was over the weekend, John Wall agrees to sign his $170 million supermax with the Wizards. There was a little bit of panic in DC that the Wizards had basically said that he had the deal whenever he wanted it, and he was playing a little cat and mouse for a while to maybe see what happened to Otto Porter, who they matched the offer from the Nets.
So now is Otto Porter making more than John Wall?
See, Otto Porter is like 4 years, $106 million. So he's over 20. I think he makes more now than John Wall does before his extension kicks in.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically, Otto Porter is like your highest paid player.
Jeez. And he's not the best player on that team at all, which I think Washington's digging a grave there.
Yeah.
Paying their third, fourth best player on the team the most money is let him go if he wants that much money.
So, I mean, you have three max players.
John Wall, Bradley Beal, Otto Porter.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of handicapped yourself there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But the other big news that was really, big news for a while, and it's kind of died down a little bit, was, where's Carmelo going to go? And we kind of see it now with with Kyrie, and we might see him on the move a little bit, for a deal that involves Kyrie.
But the trade talks have halted, said the Knicks, that they were interested in really looking to move him to Houston or move him to Cleveland or move him to some other team. But now they've kind of halted all that, and I think they're going to see maybe if they can get Kyrie, maybe a Kyrie, Melo, Porzingis team could be formidable in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he would be involved in if the Cavaliers do trade Kyrie, do you think he'd be involved?
Yeah, him or
that
Porzingis would most likely be involved, but maybe if picks are involved and the Knicks kind of give up some first rounders and maybe some other starters on that team, maybe all three of them stay. But that's what I think the Cavs are trying to not have happen, is give Kyrie to a team that they could possibly lose to come playoff time.
Yeah, but I mean, if he ends up with the Knicks, I don't really think I don't think the Knicks still make the playoffs. So I mean,
they made a good move getting rid of Phil Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, but Melo has repeatedly said that his preferred destination would be to the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
I think he reiterated that, and you have the Portland Trail Blazers who are trying to somehow get him too, and it was reported that Anthony and the Thunder are circling each other, whatever that means. So I mean, even Paul George and Melo and Russell Westbrook, I mean, that'd be a pretty good offense, maybe in the top 10, even the top 5, and Paul George and Andre Robertson and Russell Westbrook, if he decides to play defense, I mean, that could be a top 10 defensive team too. So I mean, I think he's probably headed to the Western Conference. I don't think he'll be on the Knicks at the beginning of the season, but I mean, the Rockets will really have to make some magic happen in order to get him.
It's a long NBA just ended, a long season before it starts.
Yeah, I mean, it just ended on June 12th, and it's July 25th.
And big things are happening, but I mean, we still got a long time away.
Yeah. So this brings us into our next.
I'd say our favorite segment.
I think it's our only segment, but it is our favorite. Who's Chan gonna push the panic button on this week? And I guess that also includes last week too.
Yeah, we've been out for a long time, so we wanted to.
The first week was Derrick Rose.
Yep.
And then 2 weeks ago was the Chicago Cubs.
And now it's the Eastern Conference.
Which Eastern Conference?
The Eastern Conference NBA.
The NBA. There we go.
Yeah, Eastern Conference NBA. Let's say Kyrie goes to Spurs in Minnesota. Melo goes to Houston. What stars are left in the Eastern Conference? There's LeBron. Greek Freak. Maybe
Gordon Hayward.
Isaiah Thomas and John Wall are like your best players in the Eastern Conference. Like, we always have said in the past, the West is building up. The West is getting better. The West has the best players. The West is the best conference. And now, if said players go to the Western Conference, I mean, I think the West being the best conference it's ever been, and it's kind of stinks that the Eastern Conference doesn't have many great players as it used to. But maybe Adam Silver needs to figure out a way to even out playoffs or have the top 16 teams make it rather than.
I like that top 16.
Yeah, there's. I mean, he said there's no way he's doing anything with playoffs now. It's going to stay the same way. 8 teams from the East, 8 teams from the West, but you probably might see a 6, 7, or 8 seed from the West be beating a 3 or 4 team from the East, which doesn't make any sense. But if players keep loading up and want to keep going to the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference is just going nowhere right now, and it's getting worse and worse as the weeks go on. So, panic button is pushed.
I mean, I also feel bad for the Oklahoma City Thunder because they're not necessarily in the West.
Yeah,
they're in the Western Conference.
Yeah, same with Minnesota. They're kind of one of those.
They're
teams
in the middle, and you feel bad for them because in the East, the Minnesota, the Timberwolves would probably be a top 3 team. The Thunder would definitely be a top
Yeah.
As it stands now, they're good enough to be a top 3 team.
But in the West, they're 6, 7, 8 seed, and maybe not even make playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Timberwolves will make the playoffs. I think the Thunder will definitely make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But the East, I think the Sixers are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a buddy that is working for the Sixers, and there's big talk of them being playoff contenders. And
if they can stay healthy, I think you're looking at a top 4 team in the East.
Yeah, and only getting better with that salary cap that they have.
Yeah.
Pretty much they can sign anyone they want in the next 2 years, and just having great players, kind of young talent coming up and finally staying healthy, hopefully.
I see Ben Simmons recruiting LeBron James a little bit.
Yeah, some
I
tweets
still
sent
think
to LeBron.
that's a dark horse team. I mean, you have a pretty good young roster that will be able to shoot the ball.
Yeah. Yeah,
you gotta
I agree
keep
100%.
your eye open for that.
Yes, Philadelphia 76ers, the Sixers, however you want to pronounce it, is going to be a pretty good team. Probably this year and next coming years. And
if they can stay healthy, they have to be able to stay healthy.
They've been bad for so long. I would say once you've been bad for so long, you have to get good sometime.
Yeah. All right, switching gears, we're going to move from the NBA. We're going to move into the NFL a little bit. I mean, this is a little bit of old news, but I mean, it's kind of what we have to work with. I'm sure you all know Kirk Cousins was offered 5 years, $110 million to stay in Washington with $53 million guaranteed. That's the most guaranteed money that would have been the most guaranteed money in NFL history. He turned it down. He's going to play on the franchise tag at $23.9 million. And he'll have made around $44 million in the past 2 seasons. He says that he wants to stay in Washington, but does he really? He just turned down $53 million guaranteed. What do you think? You think he wants to stay in Washington?
Yeah, I mean, he is, I think, a great quarterback. I mean, he has spurts where he's pretty bad, but I mean, consistently...
I don't think he's great. But
he brings that Washington team together, and they are at least hold their own. I mean, they're not a Browns or they're not someone at the bottom of the totem pole. So, and it always starts with quarterback play, I say. And with Kirk Cousins on that team, they are a pretty decent roster. But I just don't know. I think he wants to stay in Washington, honestly. But yeah, projecting a huge contract like that. It'll be interesting to see how he plays this season, or if he wants to move on, if he wants to get traded. But he did reject one of the biggest guaranteed money offered to a quarterback ever to play on the franchise tag.
So he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year, and if he stays, if he plays how he's been playing in the past, I mean, I got to think the 49ers are going to be coming hard. Mm-hmm. If Blake Bortles struggles this year, I think the Jaguars will be coming hard.
Yeah, if the Browns need a quarterback, like anyone in quarterback need could really upgrade with a Kirk Cousins. But there was a press conference where I believe the GM or the owner or someone kept calling him Kirk Cousins.
Kurt.
His name is Kirk. So I think they don't even know his first name. If the GM or the owner or whoever held that press conferencing is calling him Kurt, would you want to be in an environment where they even get your own name wrong?
See, yeah. I don't think he wants to stay in Washington. I really don't. See, I think he got $24 million this year, $44 million the past 2 years. I think if he plays all right this year and he looks pretty good, I think he's out of there.
But this has been the past 2 or 3 years that we've. Oh, is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? What's he going to do? And then he always stays.
Well, they franchise tagged him, and I believe I don't think they can franchise tag him a third year.
I think you only do 2 years.
I think you can only do 2 years. Mm-hmm. So he'll have to sign a deal, or he'll be walking in free agency. Mm. So, I mean, I don't think he wants to stay in Washington. I mean, he keeps saying he does, but, I mean, it's hard to turn down $110 million.
Yeah.
With that staring you in the face.
Yeah. With $53 million coming in right out.
Oh, my God.
Well, especially in football, the injuries and actually some news just came out about that brain CTE. I don't know the full story.
It was out of I think I could be way off, but I think it was out of 130 players. It might have been less. Only one of them did not have CTE.
Yeah, so $53 million guaranteed money as you sign your name goes right to your bank account. It is pretty hard to turn up in this.
Turn down.
To turn up, turn down. Maybe he'd be turning up after he signs that $53 million.
Would be.
But yeah, and this injury-prone league and knees getting blown out and concussions being a big thing now, staring that in the face and saying no, I'll play on less money, is dangerous. But he made the move and. He's going to play out the season in Washington, and I don't think anyone's behind him to take his job either. There's no quarterback.
Well, that's where Washington is also kind of botched this. I mean, they did put out a
good contract.
But I mean, you got to be able to. That's 2 years on the franchise tag with the quarterback that you want, and you can't get a deal done.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
And I'm going to move on to the next. And this is sort of similar to what the Steelers are going through with Le'Veon Bell. He's playing on the franchise tag too, at $12 million this year,
which is the highest running back. Running back.
The next highest running back is DeMarco Murray, and he only makes $6 million. So Bell had like 1,200 rushing yards last year, 7 rushing touchdowns, 615 receiving yards, and a few more touchdowns. And he wanted, I believe it was 5 years with a $12 million average from the Steelers, and they turned that down.
He wanted a what?
He wanted 5 years with about a $12 million average.
Oh my god!
And I believe it was the Steelers that turned it down.
Yeah, that's too much. But he wanted top like 2 or 3 running back money, so which is $6 million. If you think DeMarco Murray's playing at that, million. And he wanted top 5 wide receiver money since he is a
receiving threat.
Yeah, receiving threat coming out of the backfield. Which I don't know what the top receiver gets paid, but he's looking for big time money, and I think the Steelers might in the next year, if he wants that kind of money. I mean, I think you have to let him go. Like nobody can afford that.
They can tag him again next year, and I think it'll be around $14 million next year.
Yeah.
So you could tag him again, and then kind of see what happens. If he can stay healthy and you stay out of trouble, then maybe you can work something out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. I think the Steelers realize like. He got in trouble. He has been injury prone. I don't think he's played a full season. The past 2 years at least. Like, I mean, I think they were trying to pay him top 5 running back money and top 10 wide receiver money, but he wants to take it all. And I think he's a core to the Steelers. He's that core with Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. Like, that's the triple threat they have. And taking away one of those guys, the Steelers could fall in the middle of the pack in other division.
Yeah, I mean, even with Ben,
he's getting older.
He's thinking about retirement. Yeah. I mean, you could lose Bell and Ben in the same year, and that would be bad.
Jeez, Landry Jones, quarterback, and James Conner is a great story, but he's unproven. Like, you want guys that have been in the league for a long time and have proven themselves. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll work out something with him.
Yeah.
I really think they will. I think they'll see his value if he can stay healthy and if he can stay out of trouble. And speaking of trouble, back in the news, Ezekiel Elliott. He's the face of the Cowboys along with Dak, but he can't stay out of trouble.
So can you fill the people in on what happened?
Well, there's 2 stories. There's this ongoing domestic violence case that he was already. There were reports thinking that he would be suspended for maybe a game, like it was going to be a short suspension, and then he's rumored to have punched someone in the face and broken their nose at the bar. Yeah. But I mean, you're coming into your second year. You were the best running back in the league last year. Why can't you stay out of trouble? I mean, if he gets suspended for extended amount of time, maybe 2 or 3 games, in that division with the Giants and the Redskins and the Eagles looking pretty good, I mean, you could start 1-2 or maybe even 0-3.
Yeah. I think we've mentioned in the past that's one of the harder divisions too. Like, every year those teams are great and any team can kind of make it out of there, and taking out the top running back from last year, maybe suspend him 6 games if that's what the max penalty is. I mean, Darren McFadden, you really think is going to follow right behind Ezekiel Elliott? He's not. So,
do you think he'll be suspended?
I think in the second report with the bar incident that the police didn't even have his name in the report, but people are saying that he was there, he was involved somehow. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think Roger Goodell's gonna kind of gather all the facts and then make a decision, but. You hope that he doesn't. You hope he plays. Like, when you have a good team like this and you have great players, you want them to do well and you want them to be on the field and you want them to be the best they can be. Mm-hmm. So seeing incidents like this, especially to an Ezekiel Elliott, who's a top face in the league now, is always sad to see for the NFL.
Speaking of getting in trouble, did you see? It was reported that the Cowboys wide receiver Lucky Whitehead, he was arrested on burglary charges.
Yeah.
and like failing to appear in court.
And the Cowboys cut him.
The Cowboys cut him, and then the police came out and said today that it was some dude pretending to be him. They had like his phone number, his social security number, his address, and like all this stuff. And Lucky Whitehead had absolutely nothing to do with this. So the Cowboys cut him, and the police like made an arrest like just off this dude like reading like out his social security number. Like they didn't like check any facts or like do any due diligence, and now the dude's out of a job.
Yeah, and it's sad to see on the police end that they couldn't figure all this out and get the facts out there, and it's also sad on the Cowboys end that an NFL player who should be on their team should be going through training camp is not going to be there anymore just because of this fake incident. And I was listening to the Jason Garrett press conference, and he kept saying the Dallas Cowboys made a move, and that's our final decision. The Dallas Cowboys made a move, and that's our final decision. And he sounded like an idiot up there.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you made a move, but you made the wrong move cutting a player that should be on your team. And it's ridiculous that this player who had nothing going on, when you have domestic violence charges with some players, and yet they're still on the team, or they get cut.
And they had, it wasn't last year, it was the year before, they had Greg Hardy, and they said he's a leader of the team.
Yeah, like...
He's, like, important to their locker room. And, I mean, he came off, he was reportedly, like, threw his girlfriend onto, like, a bed of assault rifles and, like, like, punched her in the face a bunch of times. And then he was, like, making comments in the locker room, and they were hyping him up. And now you, like, cut this dude after,
that had nothing to do with anything. Yeah. I think Jerry Jones has got a hand in this somehow. I think maybe with the past instances that they've had with Greg Hardy and now maybe Elliott and some past players, that he just doesn't want to risk it on this one and just says, all right, cut him. Don't worry about it. Like, we'll move on. But I don't know. It's very interesting to see how this whole story unfolded.
I heard today that they were rumored that he might be a training camp cut anyways.
Okay.
Because I think they're deep at receiver. But I mean, an
interesting story unfolds.
I gotta feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, seriously. But speaking of past incidents, boys, hide your girlfriends and wives because the juice is loose. OJ gets parole, and I couldn't believe it. I was trying to live stream it at work, and they wouldn't let me. PNC
restricted access.
They wouldn't let me, but I've watched that FX series so many times.
Great series.
And the
top 5 show if you haven't watched it.
The documentary on ESPN. I can't wrap my head around the whole thing.
You tell the fans you got a book by.
I did. I bought the OJ book where he wrote it after all the trials and everything, and then in the Goldmans, Fred and Kim Goldman, Ron Goldman's dad and sister, they sued him in civil court, and OJ was found liable for both deaths, and the burden of proof is less in civil court. I believe you only have to have a simple majority of the jury to convict. And so he owed and still owes, I believe, the Goldmans $33.5 million. So when the Goldmans found out that he was writing this book, they basically seized it, and they kept it how it is. And they added like a few pages at the beginning talking about their story and whatnot. But they kept the book the same. And when OJ was writing it, he called it "If I Did It." So it's basically there's a chapter. It's like hypothetically, if he would have committed the crimes, it's how he would have done it. But what the Goldmans did is they kept it called "If I Did It." But they made the if really, really tiny.
So it says, I did it.
And if you look at it, if you just glance at it, it says, I did it. Confessions of a Killer. And I just can't wrap my head.
It's such an interesting story that it's one of those stories that when I was watching the show and I was like, hey, Dad, do you want to watch this? Like, it's such an interesting story of how this all unfolded. And he goes, Chan, I lived it.
Yeah, I mean, if people don't ask me anymore, but like, that's always a common question. Like, if you could live in any other time, like, what would it be? Like, I would want to be a teenager while that was going on. Like, that just had to be so incredible because you had a Hall of Fame running back. He was a movie star. He was, broadcasting on Monday Night Football for a little bit. Everybody knew him.
Yeah.
The Hertz commercials, everybody knew him. And then, I mean, he's so, like, blatantly, like, it is so obvious that he committed these crimes and then gets away with it and then blows it in 2007 by trying to steal something from, like, a Las Vegas, from, the Palace Station Hotel or whatever.
It was his own merchandise.
It was his own,
some odd story, again, that happens to him. But they said the comparable would be a Michael Strahan kind of player today, like someone you recognize, played for one team for a long time, on TV, on commercials, on Monday Night Football, getting in major trouble and having this huge court case against him, and the Bronco chase everyone knows. And it's just one of those events in history that everyone's going to remember. And it's like, I guess when we were kind of growing up, which I don't really remember much, but like a 9/11 type scenario that you can reread the whole story over and over and over again and find new facts and find new interesting parts of it. And it's just one of those interesting stories. And he gets paroled. He's out in, I believe, October
1st, yeah.
And I hope he doesn't mess it up again. He's gotten 2 chances, so.
But I mean, his cronies that he was with, their sentences were between probation and like a max of 27 months in prison.
Yeah, he got the shaft on
So,
him.
I mean, 9 to 33 years, and they say, the judge said that, the old case didn't have anything to do with it. But I mean, you have to think it's retribution for him getting off. And then the 33 years is symbolic of the $33 million that he owes the Goldmans.
Oh.
But I mean, if you look at
if
you look at the crimes,
we'll connect the dots there.
Yeah, if you look at the crimes, like, I mean, that's like a max of like 3, maybe 4 years in prison.
Yeah, but
with probation, like after 2. But he's been in prison, 9 years.
And we said too, his prison, he had like a 13-inch flat screen TV.
Yeah, I read that.
He played fantasy football. He like could hang out in the yard more. He had recess time.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, he was in a medium security prison.
Yeah, so like everyone's like he was in this high security like prison where you see light once a day or something. But no, he was in a medium security prison. He probably could have visitors whenever he wanted. So he was kind of, I guess, living it up in this jail. But now he's out, and hopefully he doesn't screw this up again.
Yeah, I mean, he's 70, and I mean, he looks pretty good for 70. But they said he's going to Florida because it's like Florida state law that the Goldmans like can't seize his like NFL pension if he's in Florida.
So he'll get that money too.
So he still gets that money. I saw that like if he waited to start cashing that in until he was like 65, it's like $100,000 a year. But if he started cashing in before then, it like goes down significantly each year. So I mean, they said he might have made like $600,000 or $700,000 while he was in prison if he didn't start cashing in until he was 65. Well, I guess it would have been like $500,000 then. But yeah, he said he told the parole board he's going to Florida. So I mean, I don't think he said so they can't seize his pension, but. And he's
gonna say like, I want to go somewhere warm. I want to be somewhere.
Yeah, and I think his family
better.
might live there. I'm not 100% sure. But he had to like present some plan of like how he would stay out of trouble and whatnot. But I mean that
interesting story all around again.
Yeah, I mean I couldn't live stream it at work, but I was like, they had like a live tweet page with like updates, and I was like following it like all day. It's just mind-boggling to me the whole situation. And speaking of Las Vegas Hotel, August 26th in Las Vegas will be Mayweather versus McGregor. I know boxing like isn't a huge thing now as it used to be with like George Foreman and Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali. But do you think it's going to live up to the hype?
I think it will. I think a lot of people are going to pay a lot of money to see this fight.
Oh yeah.
But Mayweather, it's boxing in Mayweather's ring with his gloves in his arena that he's played, like he's boxed in. He's undefeated. He's the best boxer in the world. And you're taking Conor McGregor, who is an above average MMA fighter, but has lost fights in MMA, is gonna come to boxing and face one of the best. Mayweather's gonna win, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, I don't think McGregor will last 5 rounds. Have you ever watched Mayweather box? How quick his hands are?
He's quick. He can last rounds. He can go the distance. And I think the big comparable tier 2 is that boxing is 15 rounds, 12 to 15. I think it's 15.
What did we do at Fit 4? Was it 15?
It was 15.
It was 15.
Yeah, it was 15. So see how much we know about boxing here, guys. 15 rounds in MMA's 3 max, I believe. Maybe 5 max if anyway. So McGregor's gonna get tired, man. I think Mayweather's strategy might be to kind of drain his energy, drain his stamina, and Mayweather can beat him in rounds 6 through 15. So it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a fight. A lot of people are gonna pay a lot of money to see it on pay-per-view. We'll probably go to a bar and watch it. But I think it's gonna live up to the hype, and they're both getting paid millions of dollars too. And I think kind of McGregor gave up everything to get in this fight, and I think Mayweather's gonna win. Who do you think?
I mean, I think Mayweather's going to win. I mean, he lands like 3 or 4 punches before you even land one.
Yeah.
I don't think McGregor will make it out of round 5. I think he's gonna get beat down.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting fight, but I think it's gonna be one.
Well, I mean, McGregor. You said he only goes like maybe 3 to 5 rounds max in MMA, but I mean, you can. I mean, he's had so much time. You can train to get in the boxing shape. But I mean, it's just the skill that Mayweather has developed
speed, quickness.
Over. I mean, this a long what is he, like 40 something? Over like this long career. And I don't think that's something that you can just learn if you're McGregor. In a year or two's time. So I mean, he can definitely get into shape, but just the mentality of being in a boxing ring and finishing off some combinations and whatnot. I don't think he can do that.
Yeah, I think the only thing McGregor has got going for him is the crap talking he does, and just like the psychological aspect behind it, where he is in your face saying he's gonna like kill you in the ring and saying he's like you're worthless and stuff like that. It could maybe get under Mayweather's skin. Like no one has ever said that to him before, and no one has ever kind of come up to him like that. And maybe even one of the better fights in our lifetime was the Mayweather Manny Pacquiao fight, which everyone wanted to see. Those two didn't really go after each other and have this big like parade of 3 different cities of them yelling at each other. So maybe that could be McGregor's big thing, is the psychological aspect and him beating up Mayweather psychologically, and then hopefully maybe that taking that into the ring. That could be maybe the one way he pulls this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. August 26th in Las Vegas. So I mean, I'm sure we'll go somewhere. Everyone will be, in the bars, or I don't want to pay $100 for pay-per-view.
I think that's 2 days before we start school.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. And we're kind of gonna round out the show with a
little Bucko talk.
Bucko
talk. So two Pittsburgh kids talking about our favorite sport.
So 9 out of the last 11 and 13 out of the last 17.
Yep.
I think you're 2.5 games back. I looked this morning. I think they're 2.5 back of the NL Central lead, 50-50. So you're dead even at 500. Do they buy or sell at the deadline?
They are going to be a buy team, is the word coming out of the Pirates camp. Neil Huntington has said that Andrew McCutchen, Josh Harrison, Josh Bell are all off limits, who are the Pirates' top players, and who were kind of in the mix of getting traded if the Pirates didn't pull this amazing streak out in the past few games. But they're looking to get an outfielder after Starling Marte has been out for 80 games with his PED suspension. Andrew McCutchen's rock solid in center field, but Gregory Polanco
on the disabled list now.
Is on the disabled list, 15-day disabled list, but Neil Huntington said he is week to week at this point, so that could be extended longer.
Well, I mean, the other problem is if that you somehow do make the playoffs.
And Starling Marte
is ineligible.
Yep.
Which
is kind of a crazy rule that you bring him back for the rest of the season, and then playoffs come and he can't play.
Don't use PEDs. I think the opposite. I think you got to sell. I think you're 2.5 games back, and I mean, I think that's a product of a mediocre division. I think McCutchen his trade value is the highest now. Get him out of town. Cervelli's trade value is probably the highest it'll be. Get him out of town. You got Diaz. Who was up for like 20, 25 games.
Yeah, I like Elias or Elias Diaz. I think he'll be a good starting catcher for us the next 2 years. I think they need, if anything, they need to get rid of Chris Stewart. He hasn't done anything sitting behind Cervelli. Get that young talent up and let him just get in some games, maybe whether it be every Sunday or every 5 games or something. He gets a start. It'll give him some experience, and that'll make him better coming down the line.
Well, see, I think he's at the point in his career where you don't necessarily want to sit him for like 5 games in a row and then just play it. Like, I mean, he probably needs to be playing a lot, like he is down in AAA. But I mean, the other player is Garrett Cole, who the Pirates have said they're probably not going to deal him. But I think the Astros and the Yankees were like ready to
chomping at the bit to get him.
Yeah, they're ready to trade a lot of young pieces to get Garrett Cole. In my opinion, you trade Cervelli, trade McCutchen, trade Cole, and try again in like 3 or 4 years. Hopefully the Cubs are, maybe they had their one good year, but they're still young, so maybe they'll probably still be pretty good. But who knows? And the Cardinals maybe are on a decline a little bit. And the Brewers were kind of a surprise this year. So maybe in 3 to 4 years, that's your window. I don't think you look at a team now who's pretty mediocre and is a product of a bad division, and I don't think you should go all in. I mean, who knows? The deadline's what, like the 30th or 31st?
Yeah, it's coming up here probably end of this. Probably
it's the end of the month.
Okay.
It's the end of the month. It's
yeah,
like
so
the
it'll be
day of the month.
Beginning of next week. It should end then.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I don't think they should be buyers. I
think they should be buyers at this point. The people they are looking at are Jay Bruce, Howie Kendricks, and Curtis Granderson to fill that outfielder role. But I don't know, maybe they don't buy anyone. They just stay steady as they are. It's just, as being a longtime Pirates fan, it is tough to see your Garrett Coles, your Andrew McCutchens, your Josh Harrisons, like the players you've kind of grown up with now, see go. And I guess I just see them staying. But they are kind of in this middle of the road where they're not the best team, but they're not one of the worst teams in getting young talent. Again, they're kind of stuck in the crossroads of what to do. But I think maybe they stay steady and they play this out, and maybe they kind of keep on this hot streak and take over first place, and finally we can get in a playoff game where we don't have to play the one game and can actually stay in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd say the past 3 seasons we got in the playoffs, or we were in for 3 seasons. We were in a losing season, and now we're this season. But I mean, they've been good. They have good pieces. The pitching needs to stay consistent, and I think that was big when they got Ivan Nova. And I think these young Chad Cools, Jameson Tyons are going to be kind of picking it up here once they kind of get older too. So I think maybe they stay steady and see how it plays out. And the Pirates are not a team to really buy any huge young talent to bring in. I mean, they're normally a sell team where they trade their closer or something like that. But I'm a big Pirates fan, and I always love talking Buccos. So they're one of my favorite.
Yeah, I mean,
teams.
I think they won last night against the Giants. I think maybe they played it tonight.
Yeah. They won 10-3.
Yeah. So maybe if you sweep the Giants and the Brewers, and the Cubs drop a couple more games, maybe you don't have to sell as much. But I mean, McCutchen is right now he's gonna fetch the highest return that he probably ever will. I think you have to take advantage of that. I don't think, even if you do make the playoffs, I don't think you're beating the Dodgers. You're definitely not beating the Dodgers. You're definitely not beating the Nationals. I mean, those are the top two players.
Astros up there.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the AL. Yeah, I mean, if you advance to the World Series, you're not beating the Astros. I don't think you beat the Indians. There's these players that are ahead of us. So I mean, do you want to be mediocre and make the playoffs, and kind of fizzle out, or do you want to take advantage of the situation that we have and give it another go in a few years? We'll have to see what happens at the deadline. With 2 differing opinions about what the Pirates should do. But then, back to football a little bit. The Steelers, another hometown team, they open camp
July 27th.
July 27th. So
happy birthday to someone
Chandler.
on the
Happy
podcast.
Birthday, Chandler. Yeah. July 27th. So next Thursday.
This Thursday.
This Thursday.
Oh, I think rookies are there, but I think veterans come back July 27th. And that's when it really starts.
We'll have to see if Bell is holding out.
Yep.
I don't think he will. I mean, he's making $12 million. He doesn't really have much
can't be sad about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll have to, wait and see if he holds out. But I think this is the Steelers' year. If they're going to win a Super Bowl with Ben again, it's going to be now.
It's got to be when they're young. They got the talent there.
Hopefully Martavis Bryant can come back and
he's a dark horse too.
Yeah, hopefully Bell can stay healthy and out of trouble. Brown's always pretty solid.
Ben plays to a high level offensive line.
Ben can stay healthy. The offensive line has been really good the past couple seasons. They've been allowing the fewest sacks. Top 5 I think the past 2 years in sacks allowed. Defense is getting better. Artie Burns and Sean Davis and the always scary James Harrison, Ryan Shazier,
Bud Dupree.
I think this is the year, and when I look at the AFC, I might be a little bit biased, but I think we're the only team that can beat the Patriots, unless Deshaun Watson comes into the Texans and plays out of his mind with their number 1 defense. Maybe they can go into Foxborough, or maybe even the Chiefs. They always have a pretty good defense.
Yeah, well, I think the Steelers-Patriots play each other near the end of the season this year. I looked at the schedule, and that'll be interesting just to see how they face off, how they kind of compare against one another, and if maybe the Steelers pull out a win there, they can kind of give them some confidence and show that they can last in the playoffs and maybe go to the Super Bowl.
I think it's a Gillette this year because we played the Patriots at home last year.
Yeah,
and Ben missed that game.
And lost.
Yeah, well, Landry Johnson's the quarterback, God. That was kind of a given. But yeah, we're pretty excited to hear what's gonna happen with the Steelers. When's the first game? Preseason starts August 4th or not August 4th?
No, it's like mid to late August, and then I think September 3rd is the first game against the Browns, if I'm not mistaken.
September 3rd.
Wow,
3rd. It is.
Yeah, I know, dude. It's coming up quick.
July's ending. Got August, back to school, and then September. It's
Fantasy football.
Fantasy
football, big time coming up, and that's one of my favorite things to do. But today's show was all about how Kyrie Irving wants out of Cleveland. What's going to be happening with that? Some teams, Knicks, Spurs, Minnesota, and Heat are on the radar. Derrick Rose signed with Cavs. Will he replace Kyrie? No. Carmelo trade talks have halted. What's going to be happening with him? Is he going to go to Cleveland, maybe on a deal? We'll have to see. Push the panic button on the Eastern Conference because all players are heading to the West. Kirk Cousins rejects offer. Curdy Cousins rejects offer. Is playing on a $23.9 million franchise tag. Le'Veon Bell also playing on a franchise tag. Will he report to camp is the big story. Ezekiel Elliott in trouble. We'll have to debate. And then John over to one of his
favorites. The juice is loose. Don't forget that. Hide your women and children. Hide them. He's coming.
Who else is coming is the big fight in August. Mayweather-McGregor. We both taken Mayweather in this fight. Bucko Talk. They play tonight, 10:15 West Coast.
Trade them all.
San Francisco Giants is a game tonight.
Trade them
Jameson
all.
Taillon pitching. It'll be interesting to see just in the MLB as general who's buyers and sellers and who gets dealt. And then NFL training camp starting up soon. End of this week, and we got big birthday plans happening, and we're glad to be back in the studio. And it's been a fun episode, John.
Yeah, as always, if you like what we're talking about, give us that subscription on YouTube. It's been a good Tuesday. It was a little weird last week, not coming to you live from 18.
We're 18 live and well.
18 live and well, baby. But yeah, we're gonna go make some dinner.
And you could see us on Pit Radio.
Try to get on Pit Radio.
Coming here soon.
So it's been a good episode, and we'll see you on Thursday.
See you guys.